We're joined now by Nick Bois, the Conservative Member of Parliament for Enfield North in North London, one of the areas hit by the rioting and looting. In fact, Nick Bois witnessed some of the violence firsthand and has been in his constituency today. Nick Bois, thank you very much for joining Late Line tonight.
Good evening.
Tell us what it was like when you were on the streets of Enfield.
Well, it was a bizarre experience because it's the first time I've ever done something like this. And I went down for about 6 o'clock in the evening, where in fact not very much was happening at that time, although you could see youths gathering. Now, the reason I went down was the social media, the Twitter, had been indicating all day that there was some form of something going to happen that evening. And so obviously there were police there. And up till about 7 o'clock, there had been one incident where 3 or 4 shops had been damaged, and the police were very quick to contain that. They were very effective. And I was confident enough at that point to think, well, maybe we've got this under control here, and it's not going any further. Sadly, I was wrong. Lots more people turned up. I think the issue for me was when it was all sparking off and got very serious, I was walking along pavements surrounded by some of these people who were clearly intent on danger, 1 or 2 carrying crowbars, others with masks. And they were on the phones talking to their so-called friends, telling them to get on trains and get up to this place in Enfield, which is essentially a quiet market town, this part of Enfield, on the suburbs of London. Very well organised to get people up there, but with one intention. Criminal activity throughout the whole of the evening, and that's what we suffered.
Do you have any idea of who's behind that organisation and I guess how thorough it was? I mean, do you blame most of it on that sort of social media organisation, as you put it?
No, the social media is not the blame, it's just a means. And of course, what that can do is bring disparate people from all parts of the country together very easily. What I blame is the sheer criminal intent of what was going on. Let me give you an example. As the police were being dispersing groups of people, they would run down residential side streets, quiet, semi-detached residential side streets, where I was talking to residents as everything was going on a few hundred yards away. They ran past in their cowardly hoodies, covering up their face, clutching their very expensive mobile phones, and then jumping into cars that they had left there deliberately, their souped-up Volkswagen GTIs or whatever, and making a run for it, going perhaps 500-600 yards, parking up again, and then coming back to do a lot of damage. This wasn't an issue about some moral cause or social injustice. This was calculated planning to do criminal offence and profit from it wherever possible. That's what we saw on Sunday night. Last night, in a completely different part of my constituency, on an industrial site, something like over 200,000 square feet of warehouse was set fire and ablaze, still smoking this morning, which belonged to the Sony Corporation. Now, these morons, these thugs, these criminals, are putting people's livelihoods and jobs at stake, and I fear soon it won't be long. If we don't get this under control, lives will be lost.
Well, I want to ask you about getting it under control, but it still doesn't really answer what's sparked it. I mean, this started, as we understand it, as a protest against a police shooting. Now you say, and David Cameron says, it's criminality
Sure.
Pure and simple, but this doesn't happen randomly. It's not something we see every day. What has turned that initial protest into something so big and so violent?
Well, there is a massive sense of criminal opportunism here. Now, I wouldn't sit in front of you tonight and tell you that confidently unless I'd heard that from the lips of the perpetrators themselves. There were about 300 in Enfield, and I got to hear quite a few, not 300, obviously. So on the previous weekend, we had the horrific scenes in another part of London called Tottenham. Now, what actually happened there was a genuine protest over an issue took place where someone was tragically killed. None of those people who were taking part in that march had any intention of violence or wished to get engaged with violence. It sprung out of that, but not from those people. And then we saw some of the scenes in Tottenham where, again, looters, criminal behaviour took place. The copycat nature of what went on is evident, not just by the places people are going, but by their conduct when they're there. The issue for the people who were in Enfield, these thugs who were in Enfield, was frankly whether they looted to take a plasma TV or a new pair of trainers. And that was very evident to all of us who were witnessing what was going on.
Well, as you say, the stakes are very high if the situation doesn't get under control. David Cameron has said that there'll be not 6,000 but 16,000 police on the street tonight. Will that do the job? Do police have the right firepower? Is it time to think about bringing in the military?
Well, I think to answer your question, I was very pleased with the tone of the Prime Minister that he set and, of course, the increase in the numbers. I am hopeful that that will do the job. However, we have to remember those police force numbers will be coming from elsewhere, and the very nature of the riots that we've seen today and the disturbances we've seen today is they can almost spring up anywhere. So we have to be very careful that we don't weaken one area, which then becomes a target, again, through the means of contact that these individuals have, to move on to an area that may or may not be under police. So in answer to your question, I think it would be sensible if COBRA, and that is the committee that the Prime Minister chairs to deal with these situations, actually tables the possibility of bringing in extra resource, should we need it, from the army. Now, I know that the government are not considering this, and whilst they haven't ruled it out, I don't think it's necessarily high on the agenda. But my point would be, we've got brave firemen, brave ambulance people going in, trying to risk lives and put fires out. They need some form of protection, and maybe leaving the police to try and control the riots that we're seeing and disturbances we're seeing.
But there's also a problem, isn't there, of just local people having a distinct lack of confidence in their ability to be kept safe by security forces when, as we heard in that earlier report, there are plenty of cases where police were just nowhere to be seen for hours.
Well, it's very frustrating because, again, I witnessed some excellent police activity when I was in Enfield, in the pockets that I was in and where they were dealing with the main areas. But as you say, 100 yards away, down a residential street, when suddenly 40 or 50 of these thugs come by, it's quite terrifying for residents. And, of course, there would not be police there. It is not possible to literally man every residential street. So, of course, I understand that worry. They are right to be worried, and they're right to call for effective security. I'm just very grateful at the moment that there's been no other incident involving loss of life. But tonight will be important. There's no question that today is a very important day in the strategy in dealing with this. And obviously I remain hopeful of the outcome.
But I don't get any sense from you that you're confident the worst is over.
I think the very nature, Ali, of this is that it's such dynamism. After Enfield, suddenly these people moved down the road to another constituency, another area called Walthamstow. Then they were up in another area within minutes. Of course, that is what the authorities are dealing with, this effective instant communication that allows these groups to spring up anywhere. And, of course, the police have to deal with that and respond to that, which is why you get these pockets of absence when damage can happen. Well, it's quite shocking that people think they're trashing a store or a shop, but above it are flats where apartments where women and children could be sleeping, families could be sleeping, and our forces on the ground are doing their damnedest to protect lives. But it is a difficult situation.
And as you say, everyone will be watching it very closely tonight. Nick Bois, many thanks for talking to Lateline.
Thank you.